Welcome back to the Scoreboard XFL Week 2. We've had a good Week 1. We've had what I think is a promising Week 1 for the XFL. And I'm going into Week 2 with more excitement than I did into Week 1. I think we're on a very good trajectory. So I can't wait for these games. Smokey, what do you think? How are you doing?
Oh, man, I am better than Orlando Guardians fans right now. I know the fan base is not that big, so I don't know if anyone's going to hear it, but they were probably the worst team in the entire league this past week, and it may end up being that way going forward. They may be the maulers of this league.
Oof.
But other than that, dude, it was great. That was a great first weekend of football, and I'm glad that people are showing interest in this, and some of the games had a really great turnout in the end. So yeah, man, this was a good week.
It was really good. So can't wait for this one. Think we have a good slate. Of course, most iconic moment in modern XFL history already last week. AJ McCarron, I said it. I said it. MVP campaign is on, and he pulled the first ever big comeback. In XFL history, 15 points in the blink of an eye, which is kind of uniquely possible in the XFL here, due to the 3-point conversion. A lot of things change. I like some of the models they're using. The 3-point conversion, it makes the math a lot more interesting, changes up a lot of things. Less kicking, which no one ever cares about. Even a 1 or 2 point conversion are plays you want to see. Like, everyone knows this, like in the NFL, and everyone can relate to this. Team scores a touchdown, you get up and go get a drink, go to the toilet, because no one's watching the extra point. No one cares about the extra point. It's like a dead play. It's just like a routine thing that might as well not be there at all. But in the XFL, it's another play of football. It's another actual offense-defense play from scrimmage. Is the extra point, no matter where they're going from. A lot more tactics there, so I like that. And the Battlehawks took full advantage. Man, it was 15-3, and it was looking bad. But AJ McCarron's the front runner for league MVP,
Man,
and the Hawks were flying. Absolutely, took it to the Brahmas at their house. Brock was not happy.
This is probably a dark horse right now. But in the end, I know Jordan Ta'amu played most of this game, and he was great. But we may end up seeing D'Eriq King being the MVP of this league in the end, because
he threw like 2 passes or something.
He did, but he was running like he's a running quarterback. I mean, there's no doubt about that, and he always has been. But if he develops a rapport with these receivers and Ta'amu doesn't play up to his standards, then we could see that. I mean, the defenders were good. There's no doubt about it. They played great. It was a good game, but I think there's a spark there. Now, I am kind of mad that I didn't get to see DeAndre Francois play this week. I don't know if there's something going on with him, but it had to be better than Quentin Dormady, and Paxton Lynch got benched. Like, I thought for sure this is when we're going to see DeAndre come in. And for some reason they have not. I haven't heard any news on it, but hopefully we'll get to see him soon also. But I think you're right. Probably McCarron is the front runner for now.
After week 1,
yeah, it looks like it. I mean, there's a shot for all these guys still at this point, but yeah, I gotta agree with that.
See, I think he should be for now. Thing with D'Eriq King is that like Tamu's also a runner, and he did most of his damage running the ball. He didn't do very well passing, not even 100 yards, and just threw an interception. But they're definitely a ground team, and the contrast was very, very noticeable in that game. If I can read this out, the Sea Dragons threw the ball 56 times. They ran 70 times. Defenders threw the ball 21 times and ran 33 times.
Oh yeah,
big split. So
yeah.
we know what they want to do. They want to run it.
That is crazy that DiNucci took 54 shots in this game. That's completely unexpected. We did not expect a ton of passing in week 1 of the XFL, but
true. But he has the NFL experience.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. Tamu and King, of course, both rushing touchdowns, so the defenders are going to keep it on the ground. But let's start with these week's picks. Week 2, let's start with The preseason favorites, the post-week 1 favorites, the comeback kings, the MVP frontrunner, and dare I say, the first modern XFL dynasty picking up right where they left off in 2020. Yours, everyone's St. Louis Battlehawks at the Seattle Sea Dragons.
Yeah, I mean, I want to argue against that, but I can't right at this point. Like, they won, and they pulled off the comeback. A.J. McCarron was good in the fourth quarter of that game. Not much I can really argue against it. I mean, I would put money that they're not going to win the league in the end. I still got hope in the Vegas Vipers myself. But, yeah, A.J. McCarron went 18 for 26, 190 yards. It's not a huge stat line, but it's the comeback that counts, and that's why you have so much faith in him also. The run game was not special at all. There was 15 rushes all together. Brian Hill, probably the best of that group, which is a former Falcon, by the way. The standout, though, other than A.J. McCarron, would be Austin Proehl. Son of a former NFL player. I think he played like 15 years or something in the NFL, so it was good to see. I think him and McCarron is going to have a really good rapport down the line here. The Sea Dragons, on the other hand, Ben DiNucci was bad, and then he was good, but then he fumbled the game away at the very end. Couldn't quite pull it off. I must have missed it. When did Steven Montez come into this game?
At the very end, took couple snaps.
Oh, okay. Brandon Knox, probably their best running back at this point. Even saw Ben DiNucci take off for 3 yards. Other than that, the wide receivers, Josh Gordon. I mean, of course, we know Josh Gordon is good. I think he still has it. I mean, it wasn't anything.
He looked great.
Yeah, it wasn't anything super spectacular, but he did have a 22-yard catch there, catch and run. But as for this game, I can't really go with the Sea Dragons because they did blow it in the end. I don't think they're quite as good as the Battlehawks, so I will be taking the Battlehawks on the road.
I will agree with that. Obviously, I'll take the Battlehawks to win it. I'll say this, though. There are some concerns for me, and the passing offense for the Sea Dragons could be very good. Josh Gordon dominated that game for a long time. He looks like really a true offensive weapon, and he is the class is showing, right? The NFL class. He's been an elite receiver in the NFL. He's obviously a bit older now, been out of the league for a while, but he's still doing it. I'm a bit concerned about it because Battlehawks didn't do necessarily a great job on defense. I know that the Sea Dragons aren't really running the ball much, but I think St. Louis needs to improve on defense. I think the offense is doing fine. Of course, A.J. McCarron pulled it out in the end, but they did give up not many points, but a lot of yards, and I think you can't do that against a team like the Sea Dragons when you have this explosive threat, right? Like Josh Gordon, he'll get you deep once or twice if you don't pay. That's too many points if you don't pay attention. That can't happen, but Ben DiNucci turns the ball over, and I'm trusting A.J. McCarron on the MVP campaign. Definitely the cleanest stat line if you want to go 190 yards, 2 touchdowns. I remember my predictions before the game, and I texted this to you before the game. I said A.J. McCarron 283 touchdowns. It's basically just one more drive. Okay, one more drive, then it's 283 touchdowns. Turn off 192 touchdowns. Still pretty good. Still not going to complain. Taking the Battlehawks to get it done. They're a great team. Well coached. A.J. McCarron's the MVP. And also it's Seattle, right? Maybe I do hate Seattle now. I guess I'll just make that the first rivalry. Also, we beat the Brahmas, man. The Brahmas are supposed to win the league. And they can't do it. Battlehawks to beat the Dragons. We have the defenders at your Vegas Vipers.
Yeah, my Vegas Vipers, and I still have hope. Now, I know the defense let us down at the very end. Let me start with the defenders here. The defenders are good. A lot of people have them number 1 in the power rankings from what I'm hearing this week, and that is a great tag team of Jordan Ta'amu and Derek King. And I think eventually they will hand it off. I think Te'amu has the experience, but eventually Derrick King, I mean, if he builds a rapport with the receivers, they could absolutely stick with Te'amu and be fine and probably win a ton of games this year. Raquel Armstead was out there. We mentioned him that he will be in this game, and he looks good. I mean, a former NFL Jacksonville Jaguar there. He looked okay. They split the backfield a lot. Abram Smith, which was one of the top picks in the draft this year, he had 11 carries, but didn't do much with them, man. If you're averaging 2.5 yards, I don't know if you were worth the top 2 pick there, man. But this... Yeah, it's going to have to get better. They are absolutely going to have to get better. Looking over the receiving stats, though, nothing. Lucky Jackson. I don't even know who Lucky Jackson is, but that was their number 1 receiver. They're going to do it all with the quarterbacks, apparently. That's all they can do. Vegas Vipers. Like I was saying, I still have hope for the Vipers. I think they were playing excellent in the first half of that game, but the defense on the other side just dominated in that second half. Luis Perez looked great, and then he did throw 2 pick sixes. I don't think they even, as a matter of fact, I don't think the Renegades even scored an offensive touchdown in that game. Drew Plitt was not great, but anyway,
no, Luis bad.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, Luis Perez, Rod Smith, and the others. Oh, Jeff Bidet. He looked great, man. Mm-hmm. That was not the guy we were expecting. We were expecting Martavis Bryant and Geronimo Allison to dominate here, but Rod Woodson said, "Hey, I got this guy, Jeff Bidet," and they hooked up for at least 2 touchdowns, maybe 3 in the end. I am going to go back to my team. I can't give up on them yet. I think they are going to put it together. I think Luis Perez is going to be one of the best quarterbacks in this league. I will pick them at home.
Okay, before I'll give my pick, can I actually just ask about the standings for our predictions so far?
Oh, I forgot all about that. Wasn't great, and we didn't expect it to be. We only disagreed on the Dragons and the Defenders, which I won that one. I had the Defenders, you had the Sea Dragons. And I ended up getting 2 correct, and you got 1 correct.
That's not great, but I think this week is going to be better. At the risk of cursing myself again here, because remember what happened to me with the Houston Gamblers last year in the USFL. I lost so many points to that team. I'm not going to do this again, but I feel like I'm trapping myself in this again with the Defenders, because I'm going to pick against the Defenders again in this one. Even though they won again, picking against Jordan Tamu again, even though he won. Because the Vipers didn't need to lose that game at all, right? Save for like 2 of the biggest swing plays of the week that we've seen coming almost like back-to-back drives, not quite, but those 2 pick sixes, they were dominating the game. Like the Renegades were not putting anything together on offense. I don't think the Renegades are a particularly good team. As Drew Plitt looked bad, the entire offense wasn't producing. It's a miracle they won that game, and the star power on the Vipers came through at times. I mean, you have I legitimately could say an entire NFL offense, like low caliber or at least skill positions. Luis Perez, you could think of worse. There's probably worse quarterbacks in the NFL than Luis Perez. You have Martavis Bryant, Geronimo Allison, and Jeff Bidet. The way he played, that could be 3 receivers right there that like have been or could be in the NFL to some degree, maybe at least on an NFL roster, maybe not starting. And then the defense, of course, you pointed out Vic Beasley, actually former first team All-Pro Bowler for the Falcons, came through on defense as well with a very good pass rush the Vipers have in general. So I'm going to pick your Vipers at home, get it done in Vegas. This is going to be a pretty critical one for the North, but man, I don't want to get into this problem where I pick against the team again and again, and they keep winning. I'm gonna catch myself early this time. Okay, if the Defenders win again, I'm gonna hop on the Defenders train. I promise. I'll hop on the Defenders train if it happens again. But today, give me the Vipers. That offense gets going. Turn off those 2 picks, and they're dominating offensively. So give me Luis Perez and the Vipers. We have the Brahmas at the Guardians.
Yeah, this would be the ugly game. This is like the Panthers of last year in the USFL versus the Maulers. Like, I mean, so far, that's how it's shaking out. Now I will say the Brahmas played better than anyone gave them a shot to play here. Their roster is bad, but Hines Ward actually may be a decent coach, or he just has good assistants out there, because this is a nobody team that is actually playing decent considering what they did against the Battlehawks. Jack Cohn, I mean, Kalen Ballage, like we said last week, that's probably the biggest name on this team, and they ran him to death. Like, he had like 25. What was it?
They bet him like 25. Yeah, I think something like that.
Yeah. I mean, for this, probably 10 carries more than any other running back in the league last week. So, I mean, I guess 24 carries is not overly excessive for the NFL, and he is an NFL running back. So, it is what it is. The Guardians, the worst team in the league so far. There is no doubt about that. Paxton Lynch is awful. And he got benched because he's awful for Quentin Normandy, waiting for them to bring in Deontre Francois. Dantes Bird, Charleston Rambo. I mentioned Charleston Rambo was going to do something. Eli Rogers, I think he's a former Packer, as a matter of fact. Yeah. And the bright spot of this team, in my opinion, is Cody Latimer, a former Giants tight end. I think he'll probably being the best of that receiving core by the end of the year, but we will see. As for right now, I think I'm going to go with the coach that I like the most, and he is a Georgia player. San Antonio Brahmas on the road.
Going with Hines Ward.
Yes.
I have a fun, interesting fact, little nugget that I wanted to just drop in, which is that I saw today. Paxton Lynch is the first player ever to be benched in the NFL, USFL, CFL, and XFL.
Wow. Well, he was an early round pick, too, for the Broncos, wasn't he?
Yeah. He was a hyped prospect in that draft.
Yeah. And they ended up going with Trevor Siemian, but jeez.
And that was the much better choice.
Yeah.
I don't think he goes back to the NFL, man.
It's arena football from here.
It might be. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, he'll probably always find like a job, XFL, USFL, something like that, for a bit. But man, it's rough. It is rough. So, Guardians have a quarterback problem. We know that. You're still waiting for Francois. I don't know what's up with him. Maybe not healthy.
Maybe not.
Brahmas probably don't have a quarterback problem. At least they didn't make any substitutes. They kept Jack Cohn in for the whole game. And the Brahmas might as well have won the game, right? Their defense looked good for most of it. They dominated statistically. All that is certainly true. But AJ McCarron is the MVP of the league. And the Battlehawks are the current dynasty, and things go their way. And they're God's team and all that. And they have the best logo, which is also, I should stop talking about the Battlehawks. Brahmas were good. Could have easily won the game, choked it away in the end. It happens. I think the Brahmas win this one. They're favored by 3.5, by the way, which on the road is already a pretty big split, given that we've seen 1 week of this league. So that in reality is already 6.5, that they're favored by a full touchdown over the Guardians, who, like you mentioned, looked like the team in the most disarray to start off. Not a whole lot of bright spots there, but we'll see how the quarterback situation turns out, because a lot of it really hinges on how that goes. And then finally we have the Renegades at the Roughnecks.
Yeah, Drew Plitt was bad, like I said earlier. Like, this defense may be good. Maybe that's it. They came together in the second half of that game and put one over on the Vipers in the end. 2 pick sixes, man. That just killed the Vipers. So what do you make of it? I mean, I don't think Drew Plitt's going to get any better. Yeah, I don't know much to say about the Renegades. Like, they won, but they shouldn't have. It was more like the Vipers just giving it away rather than that. But Bob Stoops is a good coach, so maybe his defensive mind will help this team through, and they could just be a run first and defensive team in the end. But on the other side, the Roughnecks looked great. They really did. Brandon Silvers, I actually heard a podcast today where people are putting him up there with AJ McCarron as the front runner. Yeah. Let's see, looking over some stats here. Well, they had an array. Man, they had a ton of receivers actually catching quality targets. And it wasn't any of the big names that you would think. Yeah. Max Borghi, the running back, looked good. And Dijon Lee, they're splitting that. Wade Phillips is a great mind from a long time ago, so maybe he can continue this. I'll say that the Renegades was just a facade in week 1, and I will go with the Houston Roughnecks at home.
So I think this is going to be the defensive battle of the week, right? Mm-hmm. We know that the Renegades were completely carried by defense, and I think the Roughnecks also, they have a ferocious pass rush. Mm-hmm. I think that those are going to be defensive teams. I'm expecting a low-scoring game, save for a lot of defensive touchdowns, which the Vipers Renegades would have been a low-scoring game had it not been for defensive touchdowns. But that being said, the Renegades offense looked so just completely incapable of anything, and I really expected Drew Plitt to sit after halftime. I really did not expect him to trot back out there because they did not produce anything whatsoever. They scored 3 points in the entire first half, and he just didn't show up. But they stuck with him, and they got it done somehow. Not because of him, because the defense. I'm assuming that they're going to go with him again, because it's hard to bench a winning quarterback, but with he had nothing to do with that win. On the other hand, Brandon Silvers put up a lot of stats, also threw a couple of interceptions, so you can't really put him up with AJ McCarron, who was pretty clutch. Brandon Silvers kind of tried to give the football away a little bit, but I think the Roughnecks win by defense. Paxton Lynch got smaller all game, didn't produce anything. They're good. Now, we know Guardians are bad. I think Houston's good, and they should beat the Renegades here. I think they're probably the best of the Texas teams so far, and they're probably my favorites to win the South. But I don't see what the Renegades offense. I think defense can hold up. They're not going to get 2 for free every game, and if the Roughnecks can score through the air, score in a hurry, they're not going to keep up with it. So Roughnecks win it at home. Mm-hmm. Have we picked the same team in all 4 games today?
Yes, we have. Yeah. So
that's not great for me, of course.
Yeah. There's a lot of games left, though.
It is, yeah, it is.
I think that just makes the most sense, though, just from judging from week 1. Again, about that Renegades and Roughnecks game, man, this could be one of those, 8-6 type games.
Could be.
with these, the way they score things, you could see an 8-point game.
It could be, but the Roughnecks looked more balanced, right? They looked capable of playing offense. Granted, they got good field position. They forced quick 3-and-outs a lot. They had 7 sacks of the Guardians in the opening week, but the offense still looked capable. Brandon Silvers drove almost 300 yards or something like that, and if he turns off the interceptions, they look the balanced team, the much more balanced team. The Renegades, I need to see offensive production. That's really what it comes down to. They need to figure something out, and if it's not this week, I think Drew Plitt is gonna be out. They're gonna start rotating quarterbacks, which is normal, right? We see a lot of teams rotate quarterbacks in these leagues.
Makes you wonder why Slaughter wasn't playing. I did hear some speculation that maybe he's still injured from his, hasn't fully recovered from his injury last year in the USFL. Maybe that's it, but I would take the chance on Slaughter unless he got into camp and just looked horrible for some reason, but you would think he's better than Drew Plitt.
Yeah, I mean, if a guy's injured and can't play, he shouldn't be on the active roster, right? That's what IR is for. throw him out there. Maybe they do it this week. Who knows? But the season's not that long. It's not an NFL length season. You have 10 games. You can't waste that much time. If you experiment for 4 weeks, try to make it work with the quarterback, it doesn't work. You're 0-4. You're not coming back to win that division. You're not. There's not that much time for it. So if you have a bad week and nothing works, Guardians did it in the middle of the game. They switched their quarterback out. So might as well try give Kyle Sloter a shot. No, he didn't set the world on fire in the USFL, but doesn't look like Drew Plitt's going to.
No, not at all. Was McCarron the only guy who did not throw an interception this past week? I'm looking back through.
I'm thinking he might be the only one who played like a reasonable amount of time, right? Because of course you bring in your quarterback like last second. Then there's not going to be any picks, but it is very possible.
Wow.
It just might be. It's a lot of picks. A lot of interceptions.
Derek King, because he only threw the ball twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every other quarterback threw an interception.
Even Tamu.
Yeah. McCarron, that was his problem in the USFL last year, is he could not, he was getting 2 to 3 interceptions every game. He just couldn't get on the same page with the receivers. Not like the first XFL or 2020 XFL where he was just deadly accurate and running all over the place also.
Yeah. He was going to be the MVP of that league.
Yeah, most likely. Or PJ Walker.
No.
Yeah. Well, McCarron did have a fumble though, so.
Yeah. He's not perfect. You can't. Yeah. It's difficult. It's okay. You got to play offensive with a completely new team, new league, new rules. Difficult. One thing I will say about this, and this is actually not. This is by no means a positive comment at all, even though it sounds like it is not. The officiating in the XFL is better than the NFL.
It seems to be, yes.
Straight up. Everything about it's better.
Well, they're actually showing you the Sky Judge too, and letting you hear what he's saying.
They're showing this exactly. They're showing Dean Blandino as he's making the call live. Okay, we need that in the NFL. We need that big time in the NFL, because in the NFL, what they do is they'll bring him on for TV to like explain stuff after the fact, but not while he's making the decision. That's what we need. Him talking to the official live, going through his reasoning. Because that's the only thing that makes sense. If we're just hearing the announcers just as dumbfounded as the viewers at home about what a catch is, it doesn't help us. That just creates more confusion. No, we need we need the review, the official, his point of view, and also it's faster. They're just faster. They don't cut to a commercial break if a play is under review, because they do it in 30 seconds. NFL doesn't do that. NFL cuts to a full-length commercial if there's a play under review. Those are things that need to definitely change. Also, it feels like the catch rules are just enforced in a more sensible way. Remember, we kicked it off in the very first game. Might have been the very first drive. We had this like sideline catch, and they were debating if it was a catch or not. And in the NFL, I would have took 10 minutes to review, and then another 2 months of discussion on Twitter if it was a catch or not. And they figured it out in 30 seconds.
Yeah, you saw him right there on that catch. He was saying, well, he's got control of the ball as he hits the ground. You're talking about the one where he was like holding it up against his helmet or whatever, right?
Yeah, the sideline one where they weren't sure if his like foot came up or something. They ruled it incomplete on the field, and they saw the feet were down when the ball came into his hands, and he explained it very well. Within 30 seconds, the call was on the field. It was they enforced it, and they kept playing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the right way to do it.
Yeah,
absolutely
definitely.
the way to do it.
Once again, the XFL is revolutionizing the game.
Oh, yeah.
They did that. I mean, even in the original 2001, a lot of the stuff that the XFL came up with is used in the NFL now. And here we are in 2023, and they're still doing things better than the NFL that the NFL could be using.
A lot of things. I like the conversion attempts, having a 1-point conversion instead of a kick, having it be a play from scrimmage. The kickoff, I don't know if I love the kick. It's better. It's a better kickoff. I don't know if I like it, which is not a logical reasoning. It just looks kind of weird. The ball's flying, everyone's just standing there, and it still feels like the kick coverage team gets a pretty big advantage because they just see when the ball's caught, so they get like a big head start.
Yeah. I will say it's better than the 01 XFL where, what did they do, a scramble for the ball?
They scrambled. They had two players like sprint for like a 50-yard sprint for the ball to determine possession.
It was fun to watch, I guess, but...
that was too gimmicky, though. That was Vince McMahon stuff.
Yeah. Oh, man, that was the thing. Do they have cheerleaders in this? I did not notice any on TV. Did you see any?
No, I didn't see any.
I had someone ask me about that, and she was like, "Oh, do they have cheerleaders?" And I was like, I don't think so, because I think that was one of the downfalls of the original XFL. That they were, over-sexualizing the cheerleaders, and they're like, well, this week we're going to go into the cheerleaders' locker room.
Oh, my God, okay, yeah.
That was all Vince McMahon there,
Yeah.
Especially back in those days.
I'm always, like, of the stern opinion that cheerleaders are only necessary, like, at the lower levels of sports where the game itself isn't sufficiently interesting. Like, the NFL does not need cheerleaders. Because the cheerleaders are only there for the audience that is there in person anyway. A TV audience doesn't care about it, doesn't get to see them anyway. And in the NFL, you don't really need people to hype you up for the game. Like, either the game is good and you're hyped up, or the game is terrible and nothing will hype you up for the game. I think it's pretty redundant in the professional leagues, or even in high level college. I know in college it's a big tradition to have the whole school there and the band and everything, and to have them like do choreographies, but they don't even do that in the NFL. Do you notice? Like in college, cheerleading is a real sport. Like they're doing huge performances. They're doing flips and everything. The NFL, they're doing nothing. They're just standing.
Yeah,
there.
they just stand there and wave the pom poms. Yeah,
for no reason.
I don't even think they really lead people in cheers anymore, like college and high school. Yeah.
Nothing. They do nothing. It's completely redundant. So that's just budget cut for the XFL. Need that even off. One thing the originally XFL did was actually they allowed players to put whatever they wanted on their jersey as a name.
Yeah, he hate me.
Yeah, that was funny. I don't know if it's a good idea. Probably best to not do that if you want to come across as like a serious professional league that wants to compete. I think the original XFL tried too much to like make the X stand for extreme and be special and be different, whereas this is like just a really good effort at playing football in a way that makes more sense than the NFL does in many ways. And the quality, honestly, the quality is pretty good. The names are there, the player quality is good, the fan interest seems to be there. And you would think there's a big learning curve there, and I'm assuming this is a product that's going to become a lot better, even over the next 10 weeks. And I can legitimately see them compete with the USFL this year, because USFL obviously a year ahead. I think this product now, XFL Week 1, is better than the USFL was last year in Week 1.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. And I think... it's going to be a competition. I think it's going to make both of them better in the end, but The Rock is absolutely dedicated to making this as professional as possible. I will say one thing about The Rock, though. I know it's gimmicky, but I want him to show some of that personality on TV. He just looked like a normal dude standing there, like give us that attitude that we know you have. He said, well, it was a no-brainer. We had to get this league, and we're very happy about it. And just generic phrases and. What's his new catchphrase? Let's ball out. I mean, you could have done. Can you smell what the Rock is cooking?
Exactly.
Yeah. Give us something.
The thing is, like, he is the owner of the league, Mr. Dwayne Johnson. He's not the Rock, right? He's not. Even though the hint there with the Brahmas obviously is to his wrestling career and everything, and he brought it up as well. He's still cutting the promos, at the start of the game. But I don't mind it. He's letting the games, the actual sports speak, and he's not making it about his like cult of personality kind of show, that might well be a good thing.
It might be, and it'll probably work out in the end because everything he does works out. He's one of those people that can't fail at anything, which kind of makes you mad, but you gotta respect it. And but it's just weird seeing The Rock there, and you're just a normal dude. Like,
yeah, it's just a regular suit wearing guy, executive. It's true. It's certainly true. Yeah. Well, he still wears like a jersey, and he's cutting the shades, and he's cutting a promo. I think he's balancing it pretty well. Yeah. He's not making it about himself, but like he's adding the value that he brings. In a good way, but the center focus is still on the actual games.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what you want, because that's how the NFL is supposed to work as well. So to me, this is good. I'm very optimistic about this. Very, very optimistic.
Yeah,
they produce a really good product. They'll make the USFL or force the USFL to become better and improve, and suddenly we have like 6 months of football turn into 10 months of quality football. I'm not complaining at all. Let's see what week 2 has to offer. Hopefully it is as eventful as week 1 was. AJ McCarron continuing the MVP campaign, the Battlehawks dynasty continuing to roll at Seattle. Just beat Seattle. Can't wait to see it. But do you have any closing remarks for this week?
No, I think that's it.
How's fantasy looking?
I was gonna fanboy for Luis Perez again.
Oh, of course, sure.
But I'll let that slide. We'll see him after this week. Fantasy, you can play on DraftKings. I didn't even realize it first because they had it hid under the NFL screen. I know in years past they would actually put up, this is USFL or this is XFL or whatever, but now you have to actually go in the NFL, and I'm assuming because it's a partnership or whatever. But you can play daily fantasy for the USFL, and I actually tripled my money this past week, so worked out pretty well betting on Luis Perez. Even though they lost the game, he was great for you in fantasy. Actually, one of the best quarterbacks on the slate.
Even with the 2 picks.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. Even with the 2 picks, he was still one of the top fantasy scorers for this week. Yeah, it worked out quite well.
Oh, wow.
And I was lucky enough for my good lineup to have Jeff Bidet. And one thing, Jeff Bidet or Jeff Bidet, because I've heard people say it both ways. Do you know exactly what it is?
When I don't know what exactly it is. When in doubt, I'm going Bidet until I've heard until different. Like I'm only doing an exotic pronunciation if I know for sure that it's right.
Yeah, well, let's go with Bidet. I know I think they said it both ways on the announcing in the game. As a matter of fact,
he has to earn the French pronunciation.
Mm-hmm. But the chalk hit with Josh Gordon, so that worked out well. And I did pretty good. I'm gonna throw a few more lineups together for this week and see what I can come up with.
Absolutely, yeah. Be curious to see. Sounds good. Mm-hmm. Maybe once you get enough experience, maybe next year or later this year for the USFL, you can start making a hurry up offense for those leagues. People might be interested in that. Yeah. There's some new ground to break.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Yeah, get a little bit of experience in these leagues. I might do that.
All right, let us know your picks for these 4 games, MVP candidates, and why is it McCarron? Why has McCarron already locked up the MVP, which he has, of course. Let us know your picks. Hopefully my picks, both of our picks, are a bit better than last week. To get at least sort of 3. I think my goal is 3 out of 4 for every week now.
Absolutely.
That should be a good aim, right?
Yeah. I almost had 3 last week. Yeah. Vipers game, man. Yeah. I'm still mad about it.
Gave it away. I might as well have gotten 0, by the way, if the McCarron didn't pull that comeback.
Yeah, that's true. If the Brahmas would have won there,
they were going to. They were looking pretty bad. But we have exactly 40 games in the season, so the goal is 30. 30 right picks. That would be good. Would be good ones. Definitely. Let us know your picks. See what you have, and we're gonna see you in the next one.
Deuces.
Check the scoreboard.